listening to the Lockdown live stream, a special edition Provoke and Inspire episode.
All right.
You cut it short.
I still can't...
my favorite bit.
Well, look, here's the good news. Nobody is watching. So after the ladies, people were like, really? That's like the equivalent of putting on Braveheart and then immediately afterwards putting on the cartoon version of Robin Hood. Nobody's going to watch that right after Braveheart.
I know.
Right, David? Nobody.
Why are you
is
doing
gonna
this
watch
to
it.
us?
I don't know.
I'm watching
Humility.
it.
I think
I'm watching it.
Yeah. It's a good lesson in humility. There's two of us watching it. I am gonna hit the old watch party to see if that can boost the viewership. But in the meantime, welcome to the Provoke and Inspire podcast. For those who just checked out Ladies' Night, I'm sorry that you got to see me again in my funny little sailor suit. But if it makes you feel any better, check this out. Bum 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 bum.
Oh, come on.
What? Well, that makes me feel better. I thought the people, for those that are only hearing this and not seeing this, I'm really sorry. We had a beautiful picture. Let me describe it. We had a beautiful picture of Luke wearing his fancy suit. So there you have it. That is a fun time for everyone. All right. Well, fellas, how are you doing? David, Luke, how's it going?
I'm good. I'm just,
it's 11.
I'm just been.
You shouldn't say David and Luke. How are you doing?
Oh yeah, really. Go ahead, Luke.
It's 11 o'clock at night here, so I'm doing great. Go, David.
You do seem to be doing pretty good. David, how about
11
you?
o'clock at night? That's not late.
No.
Are we going to have this on air?
That's why I said I'm doing great.
Time? Look,
I don't know.
It's early for you. It's late for Luke. It's perfect for me. Can we just accept the paradigm that we have been thrust into?
Yes.
So here's the deal. If you're into this podcast, that's awesome. There's many ways that you can support it, including checking out previous podcasts. You can do so by going to Google, for example. You can type Provoke and Inspire in the search bar, and it'll come up on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, etc. You can find that in a myriad of places. You can check out past podcasts. We've had great guests. We have great guests coming up. On Friday, we're going to be talking to my local pastor. His name is Neil Rich. Amazing man of God, and we're going to be talking about Easter, obviously, since it's Good Friday, but just in general, the whole idea of church and how this arrhythmic life has affected the church. I think it's going to be great to have a pastor's perspective, and also just what it's been like as a church has suddenly had to shift from a building to an online reality, and some of the things that we can maybe learn that we don't want to change once this whole thing kicks back into gear. So anyway, so you can do that. Leave us a rating and a review. Actually, fellas, I have a review. Should we do that? Should we check out the review?
That would really give me motivation to carry on because I'm feeling a little fragile right now. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Here's the deal.
If it's a good rating, that is.
All right, here's the deal. I took a screenshot of this review only to realize right now that there is a read full review button that I will not be able to click in real time. So I'm going to give you an abridged version. It occurred on the 24th of March from the Netherlands, and it says, Geweldig podcast.
Geweldig, jongen.
Geweldig. It's a beautiful language. I do love Dutch. Anyway, 5 stars. It says, this is such an awesome podcast. I started to listen around episode 125. Then I went back to 1 and listened to every new podcast as it came out, as well as the old ones. So it's absolutely time to write a review. These guys just love God. You can hear it through everything they say. And it goes on from there, just showering upon us praise and superlatives. But either way, mysterious reviewer, we salute you. Boy, I feel happy.
Dankjewel, meneer. Dat is heel bemoediging.
Yeah, that's very encouraging for those that understand that. But that is one way that you can help us, not just our egos, but the exposure of this podcast. We really would appreciate that.
And we all know that Luke likes exposure.
He does. I'm glad you didn't use that joke for about a month, so I think it was time to recirculate. And like dirty water, back it
fresh.
Came. Well, I'll have you know that Jody did an excellent random story. It was full of intrigue. It had a nice arc to it. There was some real substance. You have some big shoes to fill, but nevertheless, it's your churn. Did I say churn? Here we go.
David's random story.
So anyway, as I've talked about in previous podcasts, when you're on tour, you stay in interesting housing, right, Luke? And
Yes.
like for example, as I say often, I'm in New Zealand in lockdown right now, and one of our videographers, he actually was sleeping in a rabbit cage,
On
he was late, that we were about to leave, in the bus, and we're like, where is he? I can't remember his name, Ben.
Oh, you really want me to name him?
Yeah.
How about let's call him Unit 2?
Let's call
him. He's living.
Why not?
Because I have a sense of decorum and respect.
So we're like, because we have
That's
this
how you
thing,
call
you
them on
gotta
tour
leave.
anyway, isn't it?
You gotta leave on
numbers.
time, but you can't, because it holds everyone up. So we were really disciplined about this, and so we're getting ready to go, and we're like, "Where's the videographer?" And what's his name again?
Unit 2.
Eunice. So we're like,
Oh,
"Where's
man.
Unit 2? Where is he?" And and so. Actually, he was a videographer that he showed up without a camera. Remember that?
No. That was Unit 3.
Oh.
That
Oh,
was
was it?
actually a different videographer. And the best part is he shows up and literally we're like, "Oh, hey, what's up, bro?" He's like, "Hey, what's up?" And we're like, "Yo, where's your camera and stuff?" He's like, "What? Camera?" And at that point,
You guys
it dawned
had
on
a
me.
great vetting process.
At that point, it dawned on me I had shanked it.
I mean, how do you have it'd be like your guitarist showing up and going, "I don't have a guitar." It's like, what?
Oh,
What, man?
Now,
What
to be
kind of
fair,
interview process did you guys have for the band at that time?
I'm
I
an
wonder.
idiot. Are you happy, Luke? I'm an idiot. No, clearly not much of one. Now, I will say that it harkens back to the Nicholas era, a person
Yes.
to be named
Yeah.
because it's of well fame.
We
not
salute
ill
you,
fame.
Nicholas.
We salute you. He shows up on tour.
He
wearing
does.
only the clothes on his back. He brought nothing
And an
else for an
accordion.
entire sweaty tour, and that's awesome.
Right.
Anyway, carry on.
And you know what? And to stay on Nicholas for a second, after a month-long tour, he didn't smell really, did he?
No, he smelled
I don't-
better
I
than the
don't-
rest of us.
No,
Well-
he didn't. But you've often described the sort of the stages of smell that one goes through. One goes
Right.
from fresh to
Yeah, fresh.
rotten to
Rotten.
earthen.
Yeah, it's true. It's
Guys,
like
this
at
is
first-
why the girls
it-
have more views than us.
It's as at first you kind of it really stinks, but if you hang in there, then it just smells like earth. It doesn't. So back to our videographer. So we're like, where is he? We're gonna be late. We have to leave. We have to leave. And so everyone's looking for him, and I'm kind of impatient with that kind of stuff. And so
Yeah, really. Shocker
uh,
for anyone who's been on tour with you.
and I'm really hard on videographers and sound techs and those kind of things. I don't know why. So then someone who found him? Was it Steven?
No. We sent
What happened?
We sent LW back in, our manager, who is, equally compassionate, swift in justice and merciless in recompense.
So why did we have rabbits anyway in the building?
I lost track. I've gotten on so many different trains
Well,
in my
so-
mind. Where are we even now in this story? I
So
don't even know.
so they go up, whoever you just said goes up and finds him in the rabbit cage, full of rabbit poopias, laying
you,
on
Denise.
sleeping in the rabbit cage. And so
No, you're getting this
What?
story wrong. No,
I'm not.
No.
What?
Let me again. No, I'm not going to blame you because the fog of war and such.
Yeah.
But you
Yes,
blended.
and it is a confusing story.
Yeah,
very
there's
hard
a
to tell.
syncretism going on, and if Luke would zip it, I could actually correct the story. I could fact check this thing. So
All right.
what happened was
Very
later.
confusing.
Look, it was one of those weird movies where you gave the ending and then started back over. The problem is you kind of missed the middle. The ending is that. How deep do we go into
All
the
right.
story?
Go.
No,
I want to
okay.
hear it. This is
All right,
good.
all right. Okay, here comes the story. So hold on, Ben's.
David's random story.
All right, so I did a terrible job of vetting. I apologize in advance. What happened was we were on tour in a particular Polish city, and our videographer said, "Hello, may I please request a little bit of additional time to get my editing done?" My initial response was no, but then I said, "Okay, in my mercy, I shall allow it."
Well, like the guy hadn't slept for like 3 weeks. You know.
Well, whatever.
Anyway,
I don't know if that's true.
I
but the
don't care
point
about
is-
that. Anyway.
The point is, so we all leave to go set up. You know, we ain't rock stars. We play on a cool stage in front of cool crowds, but we got to set everything up. It's laborious.
Yeah.
It's hard work. And
That's
so we
right.
go off to do this hard work. And Luke, our manager, had to come back because he forgot something or whatever.
Not this Luke. Not this Luke.
No, not Luke.
Yeah, not
LW.
me. I'm not a manager at all.
No.
I'm not a manager,
Not this
nothing.
Luke at all. A different Luke altogether. But anyway, so Luke comes back just to get something, and he hears the bath running. And he's like, "What?" So he knocks on the door, and our videographer was taking a bath. Just lounging in the bath while we were all supposed to be setting up. So, as unintended, or I would say accidental consequences that we bestowed upon him, we left him at a border at 3 a.m. between Poland and Ukraine and sent
Just
him
left
home.
him.
We just left him. Now, that was also ironically
Go
LW's fault.
home.
Yeah, because
But
he
that's-
didn't check out that you needed a passport.
Yeah, but that's
was
a
it?
different which again that we weren't doing it because we were trying to be mean or judging
No.
him in any way.
Not even in the slightest.
No.
Is there a moral
yeah.
to this story? Because that's just embarrassing for everyone, and especially for me. And I want to say that my vetting has not gotten any better. It hasn't.
Hmm.
So
And the
there
rabbits
you
just
have it.
disappeared from the
There you
story
have it.
altogether now.
Yeah.
But I feel emotional. I do, and I feel like we probably damaged a couple of videographers right now. They're probably really twitchy and getting
any videographer.
you know,
that's
There are
worked with
less
me-
videographers in the world now.
I
Yeah,
bet you
that's
every
true.
single videographer that's worked with me, with maybe the exception of Caleb, this probably feels quite damaged at my hands. But anyway, that's nor here nor there. We are going to move on because there is much to get to. I asked the fellas to really basically address a few questions. But in order to set that up, I wanted to kind of bring something up that I was discovering on the news. And so I read this very interesting story in the New York Times about India and how one of the unintended consequences of this COVID crisis is that there's been so much less factory work and cars on the road that the pollution has really cleared. And this also was the case in China. But the article kind of talked about this sad symmetry where, because China dealt with this first, their sort of shutdowns happened a long time ago, and now they've been lifting those shutdowns. And what they're seeing now, in a really sad way, is a return of the pollution. And it was kind of this sad thing. It's like here they get this beautiful reprieve from the pollution. Everyone's breathing clearly. They can see, they can actually see these cities from satellites and everyone's starting to, like, their health, ironically, in some ways, is starting to improve. And then, lo and behold, it doesn't seem like anything changes. And I understand it's complex and nuanced, but there was this sad symmetry. And I found it really illustrative because I felt like I don't want that to happen to me in my life. There's all this pollution in my life, this busyness, this noise, all this stuff that is going on in my head and different things that have crowded out my spiritual relationship with God. And this, crisis, not to trivialize it, but has given us a really amazing opportunity for that fog to clear, right? And it's been a really eye-opening experience. A lot of our guests have used words like reset and refocus and clarity. And we don't make light of the suffering at all. But I've really felt like this is a time where I don't want to just go right back. I don't want to just go right back into the pollution. I want to say, God, what is it that I want to learn? And so I asked the guys to really look at two different things. The first is, what have you taken for granted prior to this crisis that you will no longer take for granted when it's over, in the sense of not wanting the pollution to return? And the other one is, what don't you want to go back, right? What is it that you don't want to return to normal? What shouldn't we return to? What pollution should we not re-enter into our system? And so maybe starting with you, Luke, starting with that first question, what is it that you feel like this situation is going to make you uniquely grateful for?
Why does Luke always get to go first?
Because you dominate the beginning with ramblings. Go ahead, Luke.
Man.
Mute.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate that. For me, I think one of the, maybe it's an obvious point, maybe it's the one that everybody thinks of, but just the lack of personal contact, of hanging out with people. And as I was thinking about this, there's two sides to it for me that I realize I miss, and that I'm extra thankful for even now after only 3 weeks of this. There's the ministry side, where even though as a mission we're really all about bold evangelism and going out and sharing our faith with people, if I'm completely honest, like I've always, for whatever reason, felt more comfortable doing kind of crowd proclamation than kind of that one-on-one engaging with people and just sharing my faith in the day-to-day. And now that I can't do that at all, I've realized how much I missed out on doing that more when I could, and now I don't get to meet that many people, be out there, can't go and do street evangelism with our team. I miss that. And I realized that I could have used that more when I had the freedom to do so. So that's one part of it I'd like to make the most of more when things come back. And I'm thankful for life giving us these opportunities day to day of meeting people, of sharing our faith in such a free way. And then the other side to it is just friendship. Like I get to talk with a lot of friends every day. I'm trying to be really intentional about calling different people, whether it be related to the mission that we do, but also just randomly just thinking of friends I haven't talked to for a while and calling them up. And it's cool. I enjoy that. But it always feels, at the moment, it always feels so intentional. Like I'm calling this person and talking, and you always end up talking about similar stuff about the crisis. I miss just hanging out. And I realized that I probably didn't make the most of that either. Just being able to hang out and have fun and talk about random stuff. And so now I feel like all of my conversations are so intentional and have to be purposeful because I'm trying to help somebody, and I just miss being able to hang out and talk to people. So that's something I want to be thankful for that we used to have.
Yeah, no, it's weird, right? It's because I think I can maybe be like you as well, where not enough of what I do maybe is organic. Like it's very much planned, and I it's all about events and big things, and even I can become too pragmatic in my relationships, like you were saying, and you miss just having friends over and having no particular agenda and being able to just hang out and enjoy their company. I find myself calling people more than I would normally because I miss that, and I want that connection, and I want to be able to be there for people. Courtney on the previous podcast, which was a far superior episode than this one's turning out to be, mentioned that, right now you kind of have to be very intentional about who you hang out with. And in some cases you don't really even have a choice, right? And it's so bizarre. Like some people you
like
really,
she has to hang out with you.
Right. And that's just been so brutal for anyone that knows me. Again, kind of mentioning back to the fresh, rotten, and earthen paradigmatic reality that I live in. But no, anyway, I agree with you. It's weird. It just shows you that we're made for relationships, right, David? That we can become so pragmatic and we can live as if nothing will ever change. But this is making us realize that, man, every interaction, it sounds cliche, but every interaction at a grocery store, every opportunity that we have should not be wasted because we sincerely don't know whether we'll have that opportunity going forward. Yeah. Oh, he's on mute.
How am I supposed to answer when I'm muted?
Don't let him talk.
Unbelievable. With all that we're going through, and you mute me.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm going through a lot too.
All right, so I'm thinking about how the kind of what this whole thing has reminded me of is how security is an illusion. I think of what it says in 1 Peter 1:24. All people are like grass in all their glories, like the flowers of the fields. The grass withers and the flowers fall, but the word of the Lord endures forever. So it's like the whole idea of security. I mean, when you think about how quickly this whole thing changed, I mean, it was like in a matter of days. I mean, practically the whole world is in crisis, and it's just so. It just reminds me of this illusion, or I'm just aware of this illusion of security, that things can change quickly and that opportunities can go away very fast. You know, and I think about regrets that I have about opportunities that I haven't taken. You know, even a friend of mine that wasn't, I don't believe he knew Jesus, and I had this burden. I needed to see him, and then I waited too long. I procrastinated, and I didn't see them when I had the opportunity, and then he suddenly got really ill and died, and it's like, it's so
Wow.
made me think of the opportunities fade, you know, and using our time, you know, is important. It's like, and I've had that awareness. I've had this idea that every opportunity, we'll talk a lot about this, you know, like, we don't know if we're going to be able to do another, you know, show together, right? Or we don't know if we're going to be able to. We'll say that all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, and you'll say, Ben, you know, we need to do this like this is our last time, because it could be, right?
Like you always tell me, David, I should always eat stuff because I don't know when I might eat again.
Yeah, that's another. That's true. Not well, since Anya.
Not with Anya.
Not with Anya.
Chickens are flowing.
It'll be the zombie apocalypse in totality, and you'll have plenty of fresh chicken.
Hey, Luke, the next time you try to sneak in a little cute comment, this comes up. Let that be.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to have a lot of trouble after this episode.
So, and I do that, like, before every time I speak or whatever, I always just privately just say, Jesus, help me not to waste this opportunity. Because, and so I guess this lockdown has really reminded me again of opportunities aren't always going to be here. You know, we'll see. I do believe that this is an exciting time. I have a fresh excitement about this time. I feel like God wants to do things like we've never seen before. And this is going to facilitate that. So there's an excitement in me growing, actually. But it also is like, I am not going to, with the Lord's help, I am not going to waste opportunities when they're there. You know, it's just kind of reinforced that.
Yeah. Yeah. Even smaller things like mobility, you know, and mobility has always been a privilege, but there's a lot of people around the world that I really love and are really important to me. And that my sort of annual rhythms allow me to see. You know, there's people in my life that I get to see because of tours I go on, or places I speak. And just the idea that all of a sudden I feel very isolated in it, it makes me more empathetic to people in certain geopolitical situations where they're not mobile, you know, where we've had so many people who wanted to be part of a No Longer Music tour, but were able to get visas, or wanted to come to the SMS, and their governments just said, nah, you know, we were supposed to have a couple of our Brazilian brothers come and be part of the No Longer Music rehearsals here in Minneapolis, and nope, just government says no. You know, and so even just mobility. And I remember being in Beirut, Lebanon, and where it really dawned on me for the first time, where we were talking to all these young people, and they just said they felt so trapped. And I was just kind of, as a young 20-something-year-old, I was just like, what? Like, you couldn't just get up and leave? And they're like, no, we're like this, you know, we can't just get up and go somewhere, you know, not just economically necessarily, but even just from a, you know, an international mobility perspective, that's a privilege. And so that's something that's been weighing on me too, is just, we need to be grateful for the immense relationships that God has put in our lives, and not take those for granted.
You know, Ben, it's interesting you're saying about mobility. There's a Polish sociologist, or was, you know, he's passed away now, called Zygmunt Bauman, and he talks a lot. He kind of analyzes society in modern day.
One of his books, and my brain blew up. Like, literally, I had to collect the pieces of my brain all over the sofa. It was so complicated.
He is pretty intense, and and he gets a bit weird sometimes.
His name's Zygmunt. I mean, come on,
Zygmunt Bauman.
Sorry, carry on.
Yeah. But he does. It is hard to read, and I confess I've never read through a whole one of his books.
Well, you've never read it, and now you're telling us about him.
No, I've read lots of chapters that have been really interesting, that have really hit me and stayed with me. But it's he really analyzes society, and one of the things he talks about is mobility. And it's interesting how you were saying, realizing that for some people that's not a luxury that they have. And he talks about how that's actually kind of a luxury of people who have money and power today, that's one of the key things that it represents. It's the freedom of mobility, of being able to move around, and yeah, something we take for granted, but it's a key sign of power, in our times. It's become increasingly a big part of our lives, how fast life moves, but also how physically, geographically, we're able to move and go everywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally get you.
How can you not trust a guy that looks like that? I mean, look at him.
There he
Look
is.
I mean,
that's
look
true.
at him.
Bauman.
If that is
Yeah,
not a
he's-
picture of pensivity, I don't know what is.
I was gonna say he's pensive.
Yeah.
He's in some cool inner city in Poland. He was rocking the free world.
I believe that is a combination
right.
of fear and want, as
Fear
David
and
would
want.
so appropriately and adroitly say.
But just to stay on that point for a second, I mean, I'm in this lockdown in New Zealand, and it looks like they're gonna I think their strategy in New Zealand is just to keep the country virus free,
completely isolated. Yeah,
which you can do in a country like this, a small island country like this. But then so for me, like I'm looking at, I need to go to the States, I need to go to Europe, I need to go to a lot of places, but it might mean it'll add like a lot of time to my trip, because it means that if I go, I'll probably most likely have to go into isolation for 2 weeks wherever I go. And for sure, if I want to try to come back here, I'll be in mandatory 2-week at least isolation somewhere. And so that just adds a ton of and it's going to be more difficult. And like you're saying, this whole kind of being used to being able to just travel freely and all of that. I mean, I do believe God is going to make a way, and I don't think but it is just we are not in control, and it's just reinforced that to me in such a strong way.
yeah.
I have wondered though, if we, especially like in the missions world of ministry and all, like international ministry, whether we overdo it on the travel, like in our times, whether we reached a point where we overdid it. And I wonder if this situation might, make us rethink that, of, whether, or I sometimes wonder, I wouldn't say in the mission of Steiger, a lot of what we do is on the ground. It's our teams day to day in cities, but there's a lot of conferences and meetings that churches and missions do all the time. And it just, sometimes I wonder, is all this travel necessary? And
Right.
maybe we'll rethink that now.
Especially because let's gather together in the high hills of Aspen to discuss global missions. And it's like,
Let's
that
go
sounds
to
awesome.
Dubai and have a prayer meeting.
Oh,
I
wow,
wonder
that
do you know anyone
that
who
got a little personal.
do you know anyone who's done that?
I've been to Dubai
I want to
for
go
a prayer
Dubai.
meeting. It was pretty good though.
It sounds pretty
Yeah,
awesome.
but again, I think that illustrates the point.
No, but here's the thing. This is a very, very good discussion, because that segues us naturally to the second part, which is what shouldn't come back, right? What were we grateful for that we don't now have? And what are some things that, honestly, this might be an opportunity to assess some things that need to get cut. And so that's kind of a very interesting thing. It has, have we become so, often a dichotomy that we talk about is missions over there, right? As opposed to missions here. And clearly the Bible supports cross-cultural missions. I think you can't look at the life of the Apostle Paul and think otherwise, and all the brilliant men and women throughout history. But David, could this be an opportunity to simplify, to say, the church is outside of the building and maybe the mission field is in your backyard? Is that an element of what maybe we should course correct a little bit through this crisis?
Well, I think authentic ministry always is that way. It's always outside of the building, and it's always in your own backyard. It's that's where God, when he first got a hold of my life and started to break into my heart, it was then to reach out at my university. It wasn't to get on a plane and go to Dubai or something and have a prayer meeting.
Stop.
Sorry.
Are you just being pointlessly antagonistic?
So yeah, I'm sorry, Luke. No, but I think that yes, it does start there. And I do think that that's what gives me authority when I go somewhere else. But I do think it's going to make us rethink what is really necessary in terms of travel and so that we don't. And it's kind of going to force us in a good way to look at that more closely. And also, I think I wonder if I put myself in this too. We've gotten too into the big events, you know what I mean? The big stadiums stuff, all that kind of thing. Well, that's not going to be happening for a while. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it means we're going to really be out there reaching our neighbors, reaching our cities, reaching our
Yeah.
communities. And I feel like this is some of the positives that's going to come from this.
So, Luke, let me bring this back to you because one of the things that Aaron and I, my brother, were talking about is Matt Cram says maybe the new missions field is awkward online meetings. As it,
Yeah, that's true,
referring
Matt.
to indirectly.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, well, you can blame David for that. Classic. Here's the thing. Aaron and I were talking about, even from an economic perspective, you want to be careful to not overreact or overreach, right? If everyone is thinking it, it's likely you're not thinking ahead. You're not really thinking outside of the box. And even in missions, we're talking about the idea that it can seem almost intuitive that everything should be online, right? That every ministry's got to be online. And I think we need to be a little cautious because, yes, I think that this is a terrible situation, but I do think it'll pass. And actually, I think there's going to be a boomerang effect where people are going to be so sick of the internet that they're going to be desperate for like ground evangelism and face-to-face evangelism. But just in general, Luke, how do we react to this with some humility and not overreact in any particular direction and not say, well, all of what we did in the past was terrible and let's ditch it all, or, all of it was fine and I can't wait to get past it. How do we sort of navigate that with wisdom?
Well, there's an aspect of what you're saying about how significant online stuff is, and it's becoming more like that now, that even before this crisis happened, I think it was good to be rethinking and saying, is that really, and that's part of the discussion you're referring to there, that we've been talking about a little bit, is, ministries and missions are going, if you want to be relevant, if you want to be new and cutting edge, you got to be doing stuff online. And there's a part of the online that we should be using as we are right now. But that's it. It's not everything, and it's not. And one of the things that Aaron pointed out that I thought was really, really interesting is that there are aspects of the culture around us that we've been talking about, like the loneliness and the just the lack of community that requires personal contact. It requires in-person engagement, of on the ground, having an impact in somebody's life. And the question of whether having an impact to thousands of people through a video online compares to the impact you can have on one person when you really, when they meet Jesus, or when you do a life on life one-on-one, walking with them as they grow in their faith, real discipleship where they become part of a community. It doesn't compare. And so maybe we already overemphasized online before, and now is a chance for us to realize it's not everything. It really doesn't substitute the in-person, the way God uses us in person in relationships.
Yeah. And I feel like, I don't know about you guys, but something I've really been reflecting on is that I think methodology and approach is not even always necessarily the problem, right? It's always an outside or inside out thing. It's an inside out thing. And to me, the feeling I've been getting in prayer as I've been reflecting on this is God wants me to reconnect in a simple way, that this isn't about, oh, do I need to drastically change my approach, or, is the method all wrong, or how can I perfectly react and be in perfect stride with whatever culture is saying or doing. But to me, it's more like, Ben, the secret has always been that you know me and that my spirit is in you, and build your foundations and go deep in prayer. Don't chase the latest trend. Like as a creator, there's this amazing thing. Oh my gosh, it's escaping me. What is it, Courtney? The real good news, some good news. It's the John Krasinski thing, the guy formerly from The Office. And he's a couple episodes now where he just felt like, man, I'm sick of the negativity. And he did this news show where his daughters like made a little sign, and it's all real low budget, but it got like millions of views. And now he already has like 1.5 million subscribers on his channel. And there was a part of me this morning that was like, he's like, I want to be ahead of the curve. Like the guy nailed it. Like he's right at the head of the curve. Like, and he's like the most cool thing. And I was watching an episode of his today, and it's like so brilliant and low budget and funny and authentic. And I'm like, he nailed it. But then there's this piece that, some good news, SGN. Thank you, Steve. Thank you. You should look it up, by the way. It is so cool and such a testament to the spirit of pure creativity and humor, and like he does the whole opening section about all these people that have plagiarized him since he started. It's hilarious. But instead of being angry, he thinks it's cool. Like he just goes with it. But anyway, don't chase the trends. Don't think, do I need to overhaul anything? Yes, God will teach us things through this, but I think you are not gonna go wrong if you say, what I want to improve in a season like this is my dependence on Jesus. Let me come out of the other end of this more like Jesus, and let sort of the fog, the pollution, this illustrative thing I mentioned at the beginning about China, let a lot of the pollution is busyness. It's methodology. It's putting more hope and strategy than on the Holy Spirit. David isn't a part of this, recognizing that maybe it's not even about the approach as much as it about what's inside.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And I'm sorry, Luke, if I was being mean to you about Dubai.
It's so good.
Every podcast, I have to call him up, and I got to yell at him.
I'm having to apologize a lot lately. But
it's the lockdown. It's affecting you.
I feel like Oprah in the middle of this.
No, but I mean, okay, this is my heart is really big.
There it is.
I love performing. I'm not very good, but I like doing it when I can, and I enjoy. Like if I'm gonna speak, I enjoy speaking to it's easier for me to speak to like 3,000 people than it is to speak to 50 people in a classroom. It's I don't know why, but it is, and this is just kind of like exposed. Why am I doing what I do, and is it for Jesus or is it for me? And I've had to really look at that. Something Shane Claiborne said. He said it's fashionable to talk with the poor, but it's Mother Teresa said it's fashionable to talk with the poor, but not to be with the poor. Well, I don't think you have to just say it with the poor. I think it's fashionable to talk about reaching out to a lost world.
Yeah.
It's fashionable to have big events talking about, reaching a lost world, and doing big flashy media stuff and all that. And I'm talking to myself here, not to anyone else, but actually reaching out to people, really doing it. That's something else. And I just feel like I need to go, not that I ever walked completely away from this, but I need to go back to the roots, man. And then maybe if God lets me be in a, perform again, if he does, I'll do it with the right heart, and he'll be able to anoint that even in a greater way. So that's something I've been thinking.
Yeah.
What Ben, what David's sharing there reminded me of, I actually separated something I wanted to share before, and it really connected with what David was saying there. I pulled this old book off my shelf by Martin Lloyd-Jones, and it's amazing because it was written during just the end of the war, the Second World War. And it's talking about where's God in the pain and that kind of stuff. But there's this chapter on facing the unexpected. So I'd been reading this because I was like, wow, there's similarities to what we're going through. And he says some really interesting stuff. He talks about crisis and how crisis really is a testing time for everybody. When you go through crisis, you're being tested. And he says, for one thing, it shows exactly and precisely what kind of person we really are and how we react to it. And I think none of us go through it perfectly. We go through it and we find out things about ourselves that we like, wow, I didn't realize that was there. And it kind of relates to what you were saying, David, because it's realizing that how often we lose the right motivation or the right heart in what we're doing. And we do stuff just because it becomes a rhythm or something normal, or we even do it to impress people instead of really doing it out of God, God's calling on our lives. And so he says this, he says, in normal times when life is pursuing the ordinary tenor of its way, we all succeed in making a fair show. We adopt a certain standard and a certain attitude towards life, and there is sufficient time and leisure to enable us to carry out the part. We observe the rules and conform ourselves to the various standards that are recognized. And so, yeah, partly getting comfortable, but partly also kind of that thing that we all do all the time where we're just often too concerned about what people think, and we're putting on this thing and we're playing a part and we're not stopping and thinking. I think the crisis just so challenges us to realize, to look at ourselves with honesty and go, where am I at? Where's my heart at? Where am I at with God? And And so it's first and foremost been something for me personally, in that I'd love that to not go away. That was your second question, Ben. Is there something that you would like to not go away? I'd like that sense of crisis that helps me look more closely and see myself better, maybe a little bit of how Jesus sees us. But also I've seen that in other people, and I'd love to see that continue. There's a sense of urgency that the crisis has created that makes people, and we've said this before on this podcast, it makes people want to help others more. It brings out often good things in people, but it also makes people think, have I been using my life the way I should? Have I been making the most of the opportunities? And so there are more and more people contacting and saying, can I get involved in a mission? Can I help out? I'd love to see that continue, that sense of urgency of like, am I doing what I really should be doing with my life?
Yeah, no, for sure. And, it's funny, I kind of a pattern that has emerged, I think unintendedly, is all of the authors that we've referenced are not here, right? With the one exception being Dallas Willard, of course. But, and when he wrote this book, he was not writing it in reference to this specific time. And what I find interesting about that is that maybe there's a little bit of a lesson in that, is that those that are too close to this, that are trying to be too reactive to this and trying to figure out the trends and all of the social media, it's like the greatest wisdom I've been finding right now is in Scripture and in this book that was written well before the crisis ever happened. And yet there's these deep aspects of character and true peace and true love and true joy and what it means to be inwardly strong and resilient and not chasing after the things of the world. And so I don't know. Again, I think that there is a little bit of a lesson maybe to be learned in that, and that, yes, let's be trying to see the ways that we can serve. Even Matt Cram mentions, some people are kind of going into different jobs that they didn't expect to have. Are we ready to kind of step into those places and just serve there? Maybe I was doing some crazy ministry thing, but now I'm having to work at a grocery store to support my family, and there's a great ministry for me to do there. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is, I really think that there is a timeless foundation that Jesus wants to put in you. And I mentioned this on the Girls podcast, that true peace is that you are not you're not burdened by your past or worried about your future. There is a resilience in you that is dependent on your trust in God, that allows you to kind of hover above the circumstances and find your strength, and then enter into them, not sort of tossed around by them, but being able to really steer in the direction that you feel God is calling you to. And so that's kind of I don't know, that's been a thing that's kind of come in me, is that more than ever I'm aware that my foundations have to be almost apart from the reality that I so happen to find myself in. Right, David?
Yeah, and I think that it's always supposed to be like that. It's not who I excuse me, it's not what I do, it's who I am. And that's the thing that God is concerned about. Like Keith Green in his song, "To Obey is Better Than Sacrifice." It's about obeying. It's about not what I do. It's relationship with Jesus first, and then he gives me his heart for those around me and to the world, and whatever role I'm supposed to play, I play it. But my identity, the thing that inspires me, is not what I do, but it's who I know. And that's one thing to say. It's easy to say that, but to really, really have that in my life. And I think what this has done is it's stripped a lot of things away. And I did have this understanding on some level before. It's not like a new thought for me, but I feel like it's pushed me to go deeper in this.
Yeah, absolutely. No, this has been good, and for those that have stuck with us through 2 streams, you shall get a special whistle and a cookie in the mail, hand-baked by Luke.
And a golden fish.
Yes, a golden fish that shall be placed gently into
or
your
a chocolate
bosom
fish.
pocket. Courtney's still here, and she's looking at me like, I got to live with that, which is true. She does. But we really appreciate you, and this has been a place for us to process, and we've been able to bring on guests who I think have helped us process. Our governor here just extended our shelter in place till May 4th.
Really?
There's a
May 4th?
And May 4th. There's a lot of people, but again, it's so relative, right? There's places where it's far more locked down than we are. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is, we're in this. right? And I don't think it's going away very quickly. We're going to be in this for a while. And so we want to be here with you. We're continuing to bring people on. We actually have Maddie Montgomery next Friday. I promise. Neil Rich is this Friday. He's the pastor of Cedar Valley Church in Bloomington, Minnesota. He's my pastor. Love him. He's going to be great. But Julie Garshagan, she's going to be on the podcast in a few weeks. There's all these different people that are agreeing to come on and lend us their ear and their wisdom and share with us and you the things that God has put on their hearts. So really excited about that. David, you look like you're just...
No, I just got a text from Nigel. That's all. I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but he just said
it never is.
He said that what he's really enjoyed about this whole virus thing is that now you're not supposed to touch dogs because they might have the virus on them. So if you're out and someone's walking their dog and they're not, have you heard that? Nigel said that you're not supposed to touch
so many dogs this weekend. It was ridiculous.
Or look, you know what I'm talking about, right? So
I do. I have a dog, so I have to be in on the dog news.
Yeah. So Nigel just says to everyone out there, don't touch the dogs because they could be carriers.
Yeah, and I want.
But lions are okay.
In the words of the Baja Men, who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out?
A pensive pause in between.
No, I'm just
pause.
I'm just
all right.
I'm just trying to recover. That's all.
Yeah. Okay. Here's a couple things I want to do with y'all. First things first. How can you help us? You can rate or review this podcast like this. Right here. Bum, 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 bum. Rate and review.
Tutorial.
Bum, 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 bum. Go ahead. Go right here. Look. 5 stars and write something like awesome. And then go, you guys are awesome. Boom. Submit. I don't know if that's actually going to work.
Do a review and talk about who you like the most. And I know it'll be me. So
here's another thing.
Nigel.
Here's another thing I'm going to do. You ready? So Friday, we are releasing a brand new music video with No Longer Music. And basically, we wrote this song, we recorded this song, and then all of a sudden all this stuff hit, very much limiting both its release on tour and also the way we could do a music video. So what we did was we sent out messages all over the world, and we said, just film yourself going crazy. We got literally hundreds of videos. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous how many videos we got. I'm going to play this. I'm going to try this, see if it works. I'm going to play this tiny little promo clip because I won't be able to hear it. So you guys are going to have to give me the thumbs up when it's done. But Friday, April 10th is going to be this really, really fun video. You'll get a small piece of it right now.
Under me, gotta let it go. Hold steady as the pressure grows.
We good? Are we
Beautiful.
good?
Beautiful.
It's going to be fun.
Louder.
No,
it was kind of loud in my ears.
Was it a little loud? Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. It's coming out. It's going to be really, really fun. Like really, it's so fun watching it. Not because, wow, we did such a good job, but just all of the participation and everyone's kind of stuck in their apartments or whatever environment they're in, but everyone went for it and participated, and it was awesome. And it was really encouraging. And to me, it's cool because, and I'm going to talk about this on a video we're going to release with Is There More, but creativity is such a cool God-given thing, right? And it is inside of us, and it's kind of like, because it's so part of how God made us, you can kind of like, it's like a weed. If you suppress it in one way, it's just going to come out somewhere else, and it's going to come out in cool ways. And
creativity is like a weed.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying?
That's
it's
a
like
new quote.
No,
I do. No, it's a good quote.
Man,
it's cool. It's like the human spirit. Oh, of all people to be offended by anyone, David, you are not one.
The
of them.
loudness.
Yeah.
What? I never interrupt someone when they're
mute.
They're exposing their heart.
Mute. Remember when I didn't unmute David for like 3 minutes? It was a great video, and it's testament to the human spirit and the creativity. There's all these things happening, and you knew it would happen. But check that out. It's going to be, of course, on our No Longer Music page on April 10th. It's really fun, and many of you were in it. So anyway, that's all. I love you. Thank you for listening to this podcast, guys. If you're a fan of this, could you help us? Could you tell someone?
Give us some help.
Please grab someone digitally
Don't
from
cry,
6
though,
feet
Ben.
away.
Give
From
us some
6
help.
feet away.
Yeah.
and you say, listen to this podcast, please,
Come
we need
on.
you. We love you. And we will talk to you next time. Boom.
You are listening to the Lockdown live stream, a special edition Provoke and Inspire episode.